In this video clip, we're going to try and demonstrate how to create a menu on the left side of our web pages. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the pages in the site that we had from Styles Part 9 and copy that and make another folder. And we'll just paste it here. And I'll go through and look. You can see what's in each file after I get it open in Expression Web. But for right now, I kind of wanted to show you what I'm doing. So go through this. And I'm just going to call it Left Side. It's the name of the folder. Okay, since this thing goes through here, and just rename this thing to Left Side. All right, and then let's open it up into Expression Web, which I have open already. So I'll go here and open Site. I'll browse, find Left Side, and open it up. And let's take a look at what we have in here. So this is from Part 9, Styles Part 9. We had a bunch of images that we were using. Actually, we only used, I think, 3 of them. Let's look at default. In default, we have a div wrapper, right? A div block that goes around everything else. And inside that div wrapper, we had a div block for header. We had a div block for content. Go to content, and then we have a div block for footer, and they're all wrapped inside the div wrapper div block. Okay, and then inside content, of course, we had a table, our table that we have. Okay, so you can take a look at that. Now, the other thing we did is we have a style sheet, and this is our style sheet that we had. And let's take a look at how this looks. I've got my little reminders coming up here. Turn off my calendar. So if I preview this in the browser, let's take a look. This is what it looks like, and we made a link for the image, right? So if we clicked on it, we would go over to Home 1, and in hindsight, I probably should have called this a different name because we'll see in a minute when we create our menu. So what I want to do now is, let me back up here, is I want to make this wider, and I want to put a menu on the left that will allow us to go to Home, and the page that Home 1 will be on, I'm going to call it House 1 now, and House 2. Okay, so that's the idea. That's where we want to get to. So let's see if we can do that. So I'm going to close up the browser. Okay, so let's go to Styles. Let's start with that. And the wrapper is 600 in width. Let's make it 800, and then let's make the height 600. We'll make it a little higher. And we'll notice that because the div header, content, footer are all a percentage inside the wrapper, that we don't have to expand them, and they're still going to be 100% inside. The content area we increased by, or the height of the wrapper, we increased by 100 pixels. So let's make that 500 for the content. That's where we want the extra stuff to appear. Again, we could preview this in the browser and take a look and see what it looks like. All right, a little bit wider. That's fine. Now what we want to do is we want to divide this up. Inside the content, we want to create 2 new div blocks inside content, where content will act as a wrapper. So I'm going to tab in here, and I'm going to put div left. You could call this div menu or whatever you want to call it, but you might have a div left, div middle, div right, or div center, depending on how you want to line up your page. So I'll just do div. We're going to do div left and div right. And what we're going to do is we're going to put our content inside div right, and div left is going to be for our menu. All right. So basically, I'm going to take this div tag now and cut it and put it all the way down at the bottom after table. Okay. And now it's just so I can indent this so it looks a little bit better. We'll take table, and I'm going to tab it over so it looks indented, right? Nested inside the div block. Okay, there we go. So now it's inside div right. Oops. Bring this over here a little bit. There we go. Okay, and now we want our div. This is where we're going to put our menu. Okay, right here. And it would be good if you saved your work every so often, right? Just to make sure that you know, you can preview it. That's what I like to do, just to see every change I make, and that's how I kind of to learn. Now this doesn't. There's no changes here. You can see everything's fine. One thing I did notice, I think the footer's not quite right. Let me change my style a little bit. If I change my style, just a little sidebar here from the menu. If I go to footer, oh, I did change it. Okay, I think from the last video clip, it was 25. I've changed it to 23. So you just might want to make a note of that. All right, because it was just a little bit too big. All right, so now back to default. What we want to do then is use an unordered list to set up our menu. All right, and we'll put an anchor tag in there. href, and this will be for the default, right? Our home page, HTML, and we'll call it home. And that's where everything gets confusing, right? Because I shouldn't have called the other ones home and home 2, home 1 and home 2. So what we'll do is I'll try and make it house so it looks a little bit, it might not be as confusing, or maybe it's more confusing. So here we go, hold on. So this will be home 1, right? And I guess I'll call this house. Maybe I could call it property 1. Maybe that's better, property 1. It's a real estate app, right? And then same thing here, right click and copy this. And this will be property 2. And maybe I'll make those changes as I go through the app. Oops, okay. Keyboard's not cooperating with me today. There we go. You want to line it up, make sure it's lined up right. Okay, so there we go. Now let's take a look at that. What does that look like in the browser? Okay, well that's not what we want, right? So what we have to do is style these div blocks. So let's do that. So let's go over here to styles, and we'll do this right under content, so we kind of know where it is. Kind of implies it's right next to that. So we'll do div left, and we'll make the width. Let's make the width 150 pixels, right? And we'll make the height the same as the. Well, actually, let's not do the height just yet. You'll see what happens. We'll do the height. We'll do position, float, position relative, float left. We'll definitely need those because that's going to align it inside the div content. It's going to be relative to div content, and it's always going to try and float to the left. We'll do div right as well. Okay. And this, if this is 150 pixels and the width of everything is 800, right? Then we can figure out what we want to do. Make sure it's equal, right? And we want position and float left. Now the other thing we'll do is just so we know where these things are. Let's give it a background color. So let's go down to the next line here and tab over. So background color, and I think I'll call it gray. Right, so background color. And for some reason, there we go. If I do color, it gives me the IntelliSense. I'll do light gray. Is light gray in here? Let's see. Put an L, light gray. Where are you, gray? There we go, light gray. And then for the div right, we're going to make it look kind of gaudy looking, I guess. Don't use my color scheme, but I'm just doing it so it stands out, right? So you can see what's going on. I'm going to make it gold. All right, so there we go. Let's save it and see what it looks like. Refresh. Okay, there we go. Now you can see we didn't put a height in here, but you can see how they're lined up because it's div. Because we do position relative float left, the div blocks try and push to the left, and this is only 150 pixels, and this one here is 650, and they all are inside the div content container. Now, but the problem is the height, so we need to make the height the same as the div content. So let's do that. So copy that and put it right next to the width. All right, right next to width, and now let's preview it. Take a look. And again, this is how you learn, right? You do one style at a time. And now that looks a little bit better. However, right, we still have the bullet items here, and this is not the way we want it to look. So let's get the bullet items and the underlines out of there and set up a little differently. Okay. So what do we want to do? So let's go to div left, and I'll do this underneath that. So what we can do then is you know you have a UL here, and I might put an ID on this. I'm just going to call it list menu, right? List menu. I could even make it a class actually. If I wanted to, it might be a better idea, but we'll try it this way first. So list menu. So I could say div left. Actually, I could just say list menu because it only applies. So I'll just say list menu. And for this list menu, I want the let's make the bullets go away. So it's what we can do there is going to be list style type none. You see the different types of bullets you can get with this, right? So we want none. All right. Now if we close that up and we oops, make sure it's okay there, and preview it. So what do we get? That's fine, but you notice it's still not aligned. We want it to be moved over more to the left. So what I'll do is, let's do another style where we can push it over to the left a little bit more. So we can say what? Margin dash left minus, let's say 40 pixels, right? We'll just play around with it. And you might have to do some trial and error here, depending on where yours is, to line it up the way you want. That's okay, but it's a little bit too close to the edge. But we can put some padding in there in a minute. I'll show you how that works. So next, let's do that. Let's do some padding. So what now I'll do is I'm going to style the list items. So I'm going to do # list menu, right? List menu, and LI. And what this does is LI is a child of list menu. Oops, put an U there. Of list menu. If you go back to default and look, right, list menu, and now any LIs that appear under list menu, they are childs. And list menu is the parent. That applies everywhere. Div wrapper, div header is a child of div wrapper. Okay, and then you can set your styles up appropriately. You can nest them all the way down. Like div left, div menu, A. Okay, you could still do that. You could skip LI. So if that pattern exists someplace, then the style would only apply to that pattern. All right, so you can set your styles up like that. So this style, instead of having the style apply to all list items in my whole website, which I don't want, it's only going to apply. This style will only apply to where it's nested under list menu. Okay. So then let's do that. Let's do text decoration. That gets rid of the underline. Okay, and let's just say text decoration none. All right. And then let's do, if we want to padding, do a little bit of padding. Let's just say padding dash left. And here we'll make it maybe 3 pixels. And let's see what it looks like now. Right. So we'll save that. Come over here and preview it. Now the whoops, we still have the underline under there, but I did push it over. Maybe I don't have it set up right. Let's take a look. Text decoration. Oh, that's on the text decoration none appears on the anchor tag down here. Okay, so let's while we're thinking about that, then let's go ahead and do it. Test menu or list menu. Now I could just put A here, even though it's sort of like I guess the grandchild, if you will, of LI. Right? Here's the parent, here's the child, and then A is underneath that. But it will find it. I mean, I could say, to be explicit, I could say list menu LI and A, but this is good enough for our purposes for what we want to do. And now I'll put in here text decoration none. Right, and you'll see how this works. All right, preview it over, refresh. There we go. Now the problem is we want this to be. We want to set a color here so we can see where this is. Because if we click over here, we still want to go to home. Right now, you notice the hand only appears over the text, right? So we want to change that up. So what we can do then is we can make the anchor a block style. So display block, right? Where's block? Block. And now what will happen is when we move our mouse over the whole area, if you had a status bar, you'll see it. Now the whole area is highlighted. And just so we can see where we are, we ought to put a color in there. So let's do, let's make our list menu, or LI, right? Let's make the width the same as our div block. We'll make it 150 pixels. And we'll give it a background color so we know where we are. So background color, and I'm not sure what I want to give it. Maybe beige. Let's give it beige color, right? And let's take a look at how that looks now. All right, we'll preview it. There we go. Now you can see where we are. And what we want to do is we want to divide that up, and so we can see the lines between each menu item. And we also want to style it such that when we move over it, there's a hover effect. We'll do that in the next video. This is part 1 of making a left menu.